Quick word. Something I did not mention in that 4-part video. Counterfeits. Because it's a season that you're supposed to get married, there is a counterfeit. That if there is a counterfeit that comes to you, that tries to profess they love, do the exact identical thing to what your God-ordained spouse is going to do. If you do not know who your God-ordained spouse is, but you know it's your season of marriage and the Lord's telling you that it's coming and coming quickly, you better pray to the Lord to show you who your ordained spouse is, because there may be a counterfeit that looks almost identical to them, same name, same what have you, similar. I can't tell you how many times I done seen them in the name of Jesus. And with a move like this, in the name of Jesus, that you walking around and this person come to you and come talking about, oh, you can move in with me, but we're not going to sign no paperwork for marriage before all this happens. We're going to do the spiritual marriage and we're going to sleep together and then you're going to be married within my household and then we're going to have the wedding and all that later. This person is not going to cover you. They're setting you up for failure in the name of Jesus. This is why you need paperwork in order. Now, the issue with having paperwork, if it's a counterfeit, is because it's a counterfeit situation. The legality, this is why, going back to the very first video that we talked about, I talked about people taking time. Some people were trying to entertain people that were not their spouse until their spouse showed up. And some were even talking about marrying the counterfeit until the spouse shows up. You create a legally binding document in, I believe it's Leviticus 1 or Deuteronomy 2 or 3. In the first verse, it talks about that the man has to determine the divorce decree. Meaning, if you marry somebody out of the wrong position and there is a legal document to that, I mean, they got set up all this kind of foolishness and they were not your spouse, spiritually and legally, you're married to them, locking you away from being able to get to your God-ordained spouse. How do I understand this? Because I've had scenarios that due to prior relationship, there was the spiritual covenant that I had made in the previous relationship where in my dreams, there were literal familiar spirits trying to get me to sign a contract of marriage, and I refused to sign it in the spirit, because as soon as I signed it, that would mean that it would be a legal right or ramification to prevent me from removing myself and marrying my God-ordained spouse if I signed it. Counterfeits are real. And you don't want to set yourself up for failure. So know who your God-ordained spouse is and operate accordingly. Now ain't the time to play. If you don't know who your spouse is, you better sit in prayer, do you a 3-day fast, do something. Because if it's that close, I believe the Lord will allow you to know who your spouse is. Because he's been telling a lot of the women that are preparing to walk into marriage, and this is their season, meaning it's around the corner. If they didn't know, the Lord has been telling them somewhere between 4-5 months. If they asked earlier, he would tell them. But they knew within a few months who their spouse was. I've known for years because I asked years ago and I honored the agreement I had with the Lord, and he showed me who my spouse was. So because of this, y'all need to pay very close attention, because y'all could be making physical soul ties or spiritual soul ties to the wrong people, and there's a spiritual contract and or physical contract that can hold you out of your actual ordained marriage. Look up the verse on legal divorce, because you don't want to create a spiritual soul tie to a warlock. Oh, this is deep, honey. You too damn close. We too damn close. I usually don't curse, but we too damn close. Why do I even mention this? I wasn't even going to say nothing, but I had a dream last night. I was in my own vehicle. I somehow ended up getting into somebody else's vehicle that was an identical model replica of the vehicle that I was driving. The person that was driving was confessing all this love to me, but that was not my God-ordained spouse. I knew that was not my God-ordained spouse. And they tried to drive me to my destination, which was a restaurant, to get me to eat. When you eat in a dream, that is creating a covenant, whether it be with the person that you are sitting and eating with or the person that gave you the food. That is an immediate sign that the enemy is trying to create some type of spiritual covenant to either gain access to your spiritual ear for you and your God-ordained spouse, because he wants to mess up the covenant between you and your ordained spouse. But the word says what? What God has put together, let no man put asunder. Because it's a legal right that you can create a spiritual covenant if you eat in a dream. So right now the enemy is trying to throw every grenade, every bomb, everything, especially if you're in the spirit right now. I have been praying down the walls and the embargoes with Ephesians 2:14. I suggest you read that in the Message version as well as the regular version, because you want to tear down the middle wall partition between you and your God-ordained spouse. And the more that you aggressively do that, the enemy's going to keep trying to come with splitting spells and all kinds of foolishness to try to distract you and your spouse. You better pray for them. You better be covering their dreams. You better be covering them with that book. What is it? The Power of a Praying Wife. And guess what? There's another version. Somebody showed me. It's called The Power of a Praying Husband. Husbands,